Welcome to the Eussen Designer Speaker Series with Billy Blue College of Design at Torrens University. Today we're speaking with St James Whitting Interiors. We have Kate St James and Catherine Whitting. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you, John. Always good to be in your company.
Absolutely. Welcome to the Designer Speaker Series. Now, of course, your background, both of you have very specific backgrounds. Kate, tell us a bit about yours first.
My background, I started as a journalist in London actually in the early 70s, and I moved into interiors when my to-be husband was studying architecture, and I decided quite like this and decided to go and study interior design, which I did at the New York School of Interior Design. I also studied at Brisbane TAFE where I did architectural drafting, and I became a certified kitchen designer as well. So that was way back when. We don't talk age. We don't like mention years.
There's no way.
So I also had approximately 20 years working with Ian in our interior design practice, and then in 1998 I went to work for a publishing company where I was the editor-in-chief of Grand Designs Australia and Home Design and a number of other
So that's Grand Designs Australia. That's the Grand Designs brand that
Correct.
is now universal.
Correct.
So that was part of your portfolio.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And 2 years ago I met this wonderful lady here sitting on my left, and I had decided that after 18 years in publishing it was time to do something different again. And after talking to Catherine for some time, we realised that we had a lot of things in common.
Yes.
And we decided we would like to start a business together.
And,
and 2 years later, here we are.
Catherine, your background.
Oh, there's many stories to my background. So we'll probably start with, I started as a visual artist, trained at Sydney College of the Arts and majoring in painting. And I then went on and decided that, I've always loved education. Education has been a driving passion of my life. So I became a HSC Visual Arts and Design teacher for about 5 years. And I remember a fabulous Year 12 student was walking me down the road one day and said, "Catherine Whitting, you are wonderful at talking and teaching about interior design. Can you just go and do it?" I was pregnant at the time, and so I thought, that's probably a fabulous thing to do. So I opened a design business and I ran that with my father for about 15 years. And we specialised in property makeovers. So we were Century 21 Australia's preferred brand for home styling. So that was a very, very busy and exciting time. And then while I was doing that, I also taught interior design at Enmore Design Centre. Then moved to Lidcombe Design and taught full-time at Lidcombe Design, and practiced and taught for 20 years. That's always been my fusion, which is that wonderful bridge between education and industry practice.
Sure. So how did St James Whitting come about?
Well, through you, actually.
Through me?
Yeah.
You mean I'm the conduit?
Yeah.
Please explain.
Through you. So we actually owe you a great thank you, John, because I was driving to the Hunter Valley one day with a bunch of women, as you do, for a weekend away, and I got a phone call from Kate St James, and I had asked Kate to be a speaker.
Can I just say, apparently it's due to me, but I've not even heard this
You've
story.
never heard this story. So we'd organised an industry forum at TAFE, and Kate was wonderful. She came and did a fabulous discussion to all of the students on the importance of working with editors as an emerging interior designer. We got on fabulously there, and I'm driving up to the Hunter Valley, and the phone rings and it's Kate, and she says, "Catherine Whitting." I said, "Yes." She said, "I've got an opportunity to exhibit at the Sydney Home Show with John Eussen. Would you like to exhibit with me?" Well, of course I would. That would be fabulous. And we basically started the business while we were space planning
at the home show.
Home shows,
Right.
Because the synergy that we had when we were sourcing and specifying, and I'd do a model and Kate would flick a product, and we actually started the business even though we didn't know it.
Yes.
While we were planning the Sydney Home
Because
Show.
I remember that show.
So thank you.
But I actually never realised that was the beginning of St James Whitting.
I had just finished doing the radio
was.
program with you at 99.5.
And I was listening to it on the car while we were driving.
And then
up
I
the
called
coast.
Catherine after the break and said, because you had another stand available, and I said, "Do you want to do it with me?"
There you go, my goodness.
Yeah, and we haven't
Wow.
looked
Okay,
back
well, I need to make sure I got shares in your business, I think. Okay, so that
you
was
excel at putting great people together.
Yeah.
well, clearly you've got good synergy, and of course it has evolved. That's about 3 years ago now. Is that 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah, the first.
So at the show, that was I remember your stand specialising in
Environmentally
sustainability.
sustainable.
Yeah.
It was the sustainability rooms on view, or Something like that,
Yeah.
wasn't it? That was the name of it.
So tell us about that. I mean, I know that's something very dear to you both. But
Yes.
how did you get involved with sustainability?
Well, because through, again, my husband, who specialises in environmentally sustainable eco-architecture.
Yeah.
And Ian and I built our first eco-house in Byron Shire in 1982. And he continues to design passive house and eco-friendly homes.
Yes.
And of course, I then became aware of the need to design in a different way and how it can have a great impact on our lives, not only from keeping our homes cooler in summer and warmer in winter, but
Yes.
not taking away from the planet by using materials that are more environmentally friendly.
So how do you define a sustainable house? I mean, what is that point of difference?
Well, I suppose, you know, from 1982 onwards, it's something that evolves. And there's always new methodologies coming online. And of course, we look to Europe a lot for environmentally sustainable design because of their extremes of climate, even though we do have them here. So passive house is really what we're aiming to have all our houses designed to that standard at the moment. And so passive solar design is where you're using the energy from passive solar, the sun, so passive energy, to heat and cool your home. But there's more to it than that. It's about creating an airtight home. And people think living in an airtight home you can't breathe. Well, of course, that's not the case. You do actually have to have air exchange going through the home. But it's about sealing all those windows and doors and making the house more airtight,
Yes.
double glazing, strong, lots of insulation, floors, walls, ceilings. You know, there's other things to it as well.
So it's reducing heat, it's reducing the
yeah,
air
and it's
conditioning.
also the materials that we use inside the home. Because
us about
as you
that.
know, many products that we bring into our homes are quite toxic. They have VOCs, volatile organic compounds.
And they off-gas.
And they outgas into the environment. And because we spend a lot of time in our homes, 90% of our time is spent indoors, and the air quality in our homes is regarded to be somewhere around 7 to 9 times more toxic than outside because of the concentration of those materials inside our homes with doors closed and windows closed.
Yep.
So the whole idea is to bring products inside your home that don't have those nasty chemicals in them so that the air inside our home is much better for us. So it's better for people's health.
Which makes, I mean, it makes
So
total
people with
sense.
allergies or asthma or, you know, even worse, they can live in a more environmentally sustainable, environmentally friendly home, and a home that is better for the health of the occupants and also materials that aren't damaging to the environment.
Yeah. Catherine, how available are the materials? Is it something that we need to ask as consumers, or is it something that industry now pushes? Is it now normalised? Where does that sit?
I think particularly in education, sustainability is an underlying core in the responsibility of every designer, every educator, every practitioner to work with. And it's about, if we as designers embrace sustainability as a normal practice, and it's not something that you do as, well, you have an option of a sustainable material. It is just an undercurrent that, you know, you don't choose a material that is not going to work in the house and that it doesn't have those factors, and it's out. So it really, you know, it isn't an option, it's just a assumed responsibility that that's what we do.
Sure.
And materials are quite accessible, and I think a lot of companies are realising that the more conscious they are of making sure that paints have low or no VOC in them, and that, you know, carpets are 100% wool, that's going to be the material of choice. And the more as designers that we specify those, the more financially viable they are to businesses. You know, we're making great change with that.
Now, I know St James Whitting is not just about interior design. You've got some amazing product projects on at the moment. But before we get into that, talk about or tell us about some of the, I guess, the jobs that you're more proud of that you've actually worked on.
So our most interesting project is one at Rod Point that we're doing, and we're embracing a truth to material ethos. So within that house, we have natural travertine on all of the splashbacks within the home. We've got no VOC paint, which is actually the St James Whitting paint collection that is produced internationally through Resine Paints. We've got new age veneers for all the joinery surfaces. We've got stainless steel taps for all the taps. And it's a beautiful synergy between high-end design and functional family living.
Yeah, yeah. So in regard to the products, do you try and incorporate those into the jobs that you're working on, or is it a separate business?
Our product range.
products.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the paints there that you you clearly had used.
Yes.
Maybe tell us about what the products are first of all.
So we have a paint range that is actually our own selection of colours that's manufactured by Resine Paints. And Kate and I have both worked with Resine Paints for over 20 years. Particularly the intensity of colour that you get, which is a relationship between binder and pigment. So the more pigment you have and the less binder, the better the luminosity of the colour is. So the saturation is absolutely fantastic. And we haven't found any other product that gives that intensity of colour. So that's really important. The second thing around Resine Paints is that they have a low VOC and no VOC paint range, so that it doesn't produce that horrible, headachy, migraine-filled smell when you paint your home.
Yeah, so you've got that environmental ethos.
And our range is only available in those 0 and low VOC ranges.
Right, okay.
Those paints, deliberately.
But you've got a rug range as well.
We do. We have a rug range with Designer Rugs Australia, which is a company that's been around for approximately 30 years. We have 5 designs in the range, and they're all hand tufted in China, beautifully made from 100% pure New Zealand wool, and some with bamboo highlights.
Wow,
so it
amazing.
gives us that lovely sort of silky feel.
I have seen some of the designs, and
yes.
I'll say they are spectacular and,
yes.
and highly commercial, which clearly they need to be.
Yes.
But I did understand the sustainable element to it, so that's important to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the stories are important to us. So the rug collection is about an art collection. So, and the same with our paint range. So Kate and I are both practicing artists, and for us it's about the fusion of art and design. So the 5 rugs that are in the Designer Rugs collection are based on 5 paintings, and they very much embrace the story around the creation and the beginnings and the journeys of those designs.
And they're inspired a lot by our travels.
Right.
So many of them are from overseas travels, but
yes.
some from Australia as well, from the landscape. And we've taken elements of the landscape, and so we've called it the Elementals collection.
Right. And of course we went to that wonderful gallery opening
Yes.
only a matter of weeks ago. Tell us about the art.
That was so exciting, because that's 52 artworks by Kate St James and Catherine Whitting, which is very exciting.
Some painted by me, some painted by Catherine, and some painted collaboratively, which some people find extraordinary, saying, how can you paint collaboratively
Yes.
on the same canvas? And we said, quite easily.
Yeah.
It's been done throughout history.
Yes.
Some of the world's most famous artists, Andy Warhol has painted collaboratively, Picasso has painted collaboratively, and John Moreau has painted collaboratively, and it's really fantastic. It's the ultimate synergy of, 2 artists or designers working with the elements of design,
yes.
colour, space, texture, form, and you get to bounce off each other, and it's an exciting, experience of actually working with that, as opposed to working independently. Well, Catherine, what do you think of that? Well, Catherine, I think that's fantastic. It's much more interesting when you actually can bounce those problem solvings, because
yes.
whether you're doing a visual arts work, whether you're designing a rug, whether you're designing a paint collection or someone's kitchen or a bathroom, the process of design is troubleshooting. So when you have someone to troubleshoot with, it makes the problem solving much easier, and also 2 heads are better than 1.
But also, you've got the synergy that actually works with one another, and you've got that collaborative approach to your business that you can't make that up. That has to be innate, and that's clearly what you've got. That's being able to offer to the products. You both come from such an interesting background. It's design, it's media, it's education, it's from all forms of fine art. What advice would you give to students perhaps listening to this conversation about what they should do post-education? How do they actually enter industry?
It's a very good question,
That is
John.
a very good question. Yes, there's a lot of opportunities, and then there are difficult opportunities. It does depend a bit on what the students' aspirations are, and sometimes those aspirations are to leave college and go and work for the top architecture firm or interior design firm in the country, and that's not always going to be the way. My journey has taken me to get to where I'm sitting today more than 40 years. And so sometimes you have to be willing to start somewhere, get a feel for what you're doing, mix with other designers, join an organisation such as the Design Institute, where you network with other designers, and go to functions, go to events, go to shows, so that you learn. You don't learn everything in college, you learn a lot of it when you
I
leave.
love the way you're saying that, because I think that is it's something that I really do respond to as well. And I think it's about being relevant. It's about being seen. It's about being amongst the community.
About being amongst
and
the
showing
community
that you're interested.
and learning from the community, and not putting your ego in your pocket.
Yes.
And learning from other people and being gracious to listen to other people and their stories, because a lot of the time those people will help you. I had lots of help from lots of wonderful people,
Yes.
some of whom aren't with us anymore, and you may remember some of them, like Leslie Walford.
Yes, that's right.
People from the interior designers from the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Babette Hayes.
Yeah. I don't remember anybody from the 50s.
No, of course you don't. But they were born then, or they were practicing then.
We're age neutral. They were age neutral.
So lots of those people, way back when I first started out in the early 70s and 80s in design, without those people's help, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
Yeah, no, that's very true, very true. Where do you see Australian design? What you both do is very authentic, and it's very true to your brand. But where do you see Australian design on the international market?
I think Australia is really learning to be at the cutting edge of a bespoke experience. So we really have engaged the whole concept of a makerspace in a way that other countries are doing it, but I think we're really on the cutting edge of that. So there's a lot of great crafts people and designers out there who are designing their own leather goods, designing their own ceramics, people designing their own glassware. It's where the artisan is becoming a designer, and we're really looking at celebrating authentic design and original design. And I think in Australia there's a change in the consumer market where we're quite happy to purchase something that is been handmade, that is a specialist product that has been designed for you, for your space, and that's a change. We haven't always embraced that at such a level.
Sure.
And I'm very happy to see more people buying Australian designers' products rather than constantly looking overseas because it's better overseas.
Yes.
Well, it's not better overseas. We have some amazing product designers in this country who are creating fabulous furniture and hopefully sending it the other direction a little bit as well.
I'm glad you said that, because that is so true.
So
we've really made our mark, and
absolutely,
and buy local.
And that's really sustainable. We were down at Launceston looking at a project at a resort down there, and it's about using local artisans, local products, local materials. If you're working on a site, we're doing one up near Byron, use the local suppliers and the local trades and the local tile shop and the local carpet manufacturer, so that you're actually re-injecting back into that local economy, and that's really quite supportive.
Yes. What would you call St James Whitting's point of difference?
Well, I think the main point of difference is that we are an environmentally sustainable interior design company. I know there are other companies out there who are doing similar things, but I think that's our point of difference with many people, and it is the core of what we do.
Yes.
We always look at where the product came from. We always want to know about its provenance, its chain of custody, whether it's certified, whether it's green tag, or whether it's any other sort of certification. They're the things we look at first, because we want to know that the people who are manufacturing the products are also having their health looked after in what they're manufacturing, whether it be in Australia or whether it be overseas. The whole supply chain is very important to us, so that we know from where it came from to where it ends up. And it's also about the cradle to cradle thing. We don't want products that are going to end up in landfill.
Yes. Yeah.
And we believe in the buy once, buy well ethos.
Yes.
And people say, but I might want a new sofa in 3 years. I say, get over it.
Yes.
Actually, that's not the way forward. Buy something that's beautiful, well made. Sit on orange boxes if you have to, until you can afford to buy a beautiful thing. If you definitely have to have a Eames chair and ottoman, or whatever it happens to be that rings your bell, save up and buy it, and you'll have that piece that hopefully you can hand down to your grandchildren. So to me, interior design is not about fashion. It's not about the latest trend. When I say not about the latest trend, I mean the fashion trend.
Sure.
There are trends that are important that we need to know about, because they're often technology trends that will help us to make things better and to live with them better, and to perhaps recycle them better, and to have a better life cycle analysis of the product. So I don't believe in following fashion trends. I believe in being true to yourself and being authentic.
Love it.
And we take our clients on that journey. So that's what our point of difference is that we take that ethos and we educate our clients,
Yes.
and we look after our clients. So from the conception of a design to the photography at the end, our clients go through this wonderful learning experience where, you know, they learn about natural stone and its flaws and its fabulousness, and they learn about, you know, how to specify the right material, and the
Yes.
fact that, you know, well, actually, no, I'm not going to buy a replica dining chair for my dining table because that's not good for the person who designed it. And,
Yes.
you know, we teach our clients around what the responsibility of a designer is, and, you know, the reasons that sometimes things might have a higher price point is because you're going to help a local artisan with their new emerging design that's come out, and that piece of furniture is going to last like our grandparents did. You know, my grandmother spent 3 months of her salary saving up for her credenza that is still in our family, and if we look at what our salaries are and saving 3 months of that gives you quite a special piece of furniture.
That's right, absolutely.
So,
yeah. And
you
that's
know,
what happened. That's what happened then.
It's
Yeah,
care
yeah.
for the products, it's care for the environment, and it's very special care of our clients.
yeah.
And we want them to feel fabulous when they walk into their space, and we take the grunt out of life and make it beautiful.
That's right.
And
yeah.
I think we also like to, wherever we can, get involved in the design of the building too, because we work with Ian, who is, as I said, you know, he specialises in eco-design houses, and we actually do get involved at that level. So if we can build a house for someone to start from scratch, where you're breaking the ground and we're involved through that whole process, the result for us is amazing,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's not just the interiors, it's the whole house.
Yeah,
And
it's
to
a
me, it
holistic
has to be
approach.
holistic.
Yeah.
And then we also get involved in the landscaping,
Yeah,
so
love it.
that we can create microclimates.
So St James Whitting is based in Sydney. Where do you work from?
Interesting question, John, because you asked us previously, what do we love about Australian design? And we love working local. So we work local. We actually work at the back of my house, and we have designed a completely sustainable, small footprint project, which is called the Future Pod, and we work in the Future Pod.
So is that a liken to a granny flat? I mean, do we? Is that the sort of terminology we
don't
could
do
use,
grannies.
We are race neutral here.
No, it is an architecturally designed, small footprint, multifunctional studio space that converts from residential living to business to entertainment to a project suite with the move of a bed, the slide of a sofa, the flip of a television.
Okay, so it's a self-contained premise that can be used for an office or for accommodation, but it's all about sustainability as
Yeah,
well.
so it can be used to sleep in, to work in, or to live in.
Right.
So to sleep in, we actually have integrated Italian-made joinery into the Future Pod, which is produced by Interfar Furniture, and it's called the Otto wall bed, and it's a horizontal-based wall bed. Most wall beds are vertical, so because we've gone horizontal with that, we have a two-person desk, which is
where we sit and do our work
our
during the
desk.
day.
To the right of that is a television that swings out at 360 degrees, does a full rotation, so we can swing out a great big 52-inch LCD screen, so Kate and I can work.
And we can show our clients
Projects,
Right.
what they're working
What
on,
they're
etc.
working
Yeah.
And then that actually folds down of an evening to be an accommodation suite.
Right.
So
right.
we were inspired very much by multifunctional small-scale living in Japan, and we looked at how to create high quality finishes in a really small footprint, that when you walk into the Future Pod, which is 19.5 square metres, you feel like you are in a resort.
Right, and is it fully transportable?
No.
Right,
It's
so
a
it's
fixed building.
custom purpose
It
built
is
for
custom
premise. Yep.
fixed building
Yep.
that is actually designed for each and every site.
Yes.
So it's site specific, and we look at the orientation of the north facing aspect of the land, make sure that we've got the right cross ventilation, that
Yes.
we've got it thermally orientated,
So it's customised for the location.
Yes.
customised for
Yeah.
the location.
Using eco-friendly materials
Sounds
such
amazing.
as Ubic and glosswood and
Yeah, and those finishes make a big difference.
resin
Like,
paints.
yeah.
Our range of resin paints,
Yeah,
of course.
so the Ubic product range has been a particularly interesting signature for the Future Pod. So it's actually a composite concrete material that's got a lot of magnesium in it,
Yes.
and that enables it to be a thermally set product, and we actually have used that on the exterior of the building and the floor of the build. But what we do to make a difference with that is we then fuse it with our resin paint range, and the exterior looks like it's made out of timber. You know, it's not faux timber, it looks authentically like it's made out of timber, but it stays cool in summer, warm in winter. The other thing that we love about it is those finishes, and
Yes.
and Kate worked with Glosswood through her years in publishing. They're a fantastic company in Perth, and they actually shipped out this beautiful silky oak that becomes the lining of the ceiling. So when you have finishes that run across the ceiling and down the walls, you get this envelope within the interior, so that kind of blurs the boundaries between where the wall begins and where the ceiling finishes, and that trajectory actually goes out across the awning outside, and downlights come down from it. So we kind of looked at it as a microscope of everything that we love about architecture and put it into 19 square metres.
Yes, and using beautiful customised joinery that also has a dual purpose.
Yeah.
So when we are storing our samples in the cupboard when we're working, it's one thing, but if visitors come, that can be turned into a wardrobe with hanging rails. So it can be somewhere where people can stay overnight for a couple of nights or a week, and then it can also revert back to our workspace. And
quickly.
Of course, it wouldn't be Catherine if she didn't have a spa outside.
Yes,
So
I think I get the point.
the
It's
French
not-
door's open and outside's the spa.
Of course there is.
It's multi-purpose.
It's clearly not a granny flat.
Multi-purpose and multifunction.
And we really love the way that it transforms with use. So I think that's what's the most
So that's
interesting
another
thing.
one of our brand products. It's called the Future
The
Pod.
Future Pod.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Yeah, we're going to do a quick response question. What's your theory on colour?
My theory on colour is colour needs to emotionally move you. You have to feel goosebumps when you look at a colour. You have to look at that colour and think that that is the best charcoal you have ever seen, and the way the light reflects off it is fabulous, and it resonates beautifully next to mustard. You have to emotionally engage with colour.
One of the best architectural buildings in Sydney.
Say that again.
One of the best architectural buildings in Sydney.
The Opera House.
The Opera House. We all
Yes,
know the
Chin
Opera
Chin,
House.
of course.
The most influenced designer you've ever come across?
Oh, that's a hard question, because there are a lot of wonderful designers out there that I adore, but I'm going to go local, and it's a colleague that I grew up with from a child. It's Greg Natali. I sat next to him in high school, and I've watched that man evolve into one of the country's internationally most recognised designers, and he embraces pattern and colour, and he's brave and he's bold and he's humble, and he's fabulous.
Yeah. Do we follow fashion or do we follow interiors?
I think they're one and the same.
We follow art.
Yes, yes. They're one and the same, but somebody else, we were interviewed recently by a UK company, and they were talking to us about fashion and asked us about our clothing and that sort of thing. And we said, look, our philosophy of design follows through to clothing, so we don't buy clothes all the time.
We design them.
We design them. We have our own clothes made a lot of the time, and we wear linen, and we wear hemp, and we wear bamboo, if we can get lyocell bamboo, which is the Warren surveillance, and wool. So we try to buy less items, better quality, things that can be laundered easily, so that you can have a smaller wardrobe, wash them regularly, and that's sort of our philosophy, really, isn't it?
And your interesting question, do you follow fashion or do you follow trends? We follow our clients. So our design, some design brands have a certain aesthetic, so that you look at an interior and you know that it was designed by that person. We design for the psychology of our clients, and every single interior, whether it's residential, commercial or institutional, interior or exterior, it is designed for that person. So we follow the needs and wants of our clients.
Yeah, which is the art of a true designer.
Yes.
Ultimately.
Yes.
How do people find St James Whitting Interiors?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. On the internet, Google us.
Yeah, so stjameswhittinginteriors.com.
stjameswhitting.com.
Yep.
Facebook, Instagram, website.
House.
Open magazine.
We're on
You'll
it.
find us.
You're everywhere. That's what we love.
We've had a lot
You're
of. We've
everywhere.
been published
Absolutely.
quite a bit as well. So we are in lots of mags as well.
Fantastic. Would you please thank Kate St James and Catherine Whitting from St James Whitting Interiors? Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
John.
John.
You make